Hi, Kevin. How are you? Good. We'll start in about a minute or so, okay? Okay, let's. So our last meeting today. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I think the others, they can join us if they want. Um, okay, so for the session, we are gonna go over how to use your Raspberry Pi to set up your server for Minecraft server. Now, Minecraft server is, um, it will be good if you use Minecraft Java edition to play. So what we can do is we can start with setting up the Raspberry Pi. There are two different server versions. So I'll walk you through on how to set that up. I tested this and everything should work. So when you create your server in our document, you can have your world saved. Now, depending on the type of Raspberry Pi that you're using, if you're using one that has 8 GB of RAM, you can dedicate 2 gigs for your server. If you have the 2 GB of RAM at the minimum, then you can only dedicate 1 GB of RAM to the Minecraft server. So it's gonna be running a little slow depending on the amount of RAM that you're gonna give it. So we can set up our server so that way we can play with friends or people in the household. Um, if you set up and port forward, you can use your public IP so that way people can access your Minecraft server. You can modify your world and then you can administer your Minecraft server. You can also control permission or deny access to whoever that wants to join your server. So there are some benefits behind running the server. Um, and like I mentioned before, we will be using, I wrote the instruction for both, but you can use one or the other. So while we go ahead and get started, if you take a minute and start up your Raspberry Pi, we can look through the procedures together. Any question before we start Minecraft server? Okay, no question. So this will be the last exercise in our course. Um, if you have questions in the future, you're welcome to email me. And, you know, just keep in mind that the summer semester officially ends at the end of today. I can extend some stuff if you have outstanding things that you need to submit. Please let me know, but I like for you to turn in everything before 11:59 p.m. tonight so I can get everybody's grade uploaded to the web advisor. Now, after this class, I will send out the information once the grade is posted. And in that email, you will receive the information on how you can obtain the certificate from the non-credit department. You will need to email extended learning user, which goes to the director of non-credit and her admin. They'll be able to process your request, and it does take up to 90 days to get your certificate sent to you or verified, because I guess they do have some backlog work. So All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So if you have your Raspberry Pi turned on, we will log in and we will open up our terminal. And so in your terminal, you will start with update. And before we install any packages, we want to make sure that our Raspberry Pi is up to date. And then we will do an upgrade. So this allows us to update any kind of packages that we already have, along with firmware and operating system areas. Then after you run the update and upgrade, you can do the full upgrade command, or you can just do regular upgrade. You have the option to go with one or the other type. I tested both of these and they should be running fine. So you will have one is going to be official, and this is a third party type of tools that you're going to bring in. The official is going to be closed source, where the PaperMC is going to be open source. They both use Java compiler or Java virtual machine to build. And just keep in mind that the building process for your server does take a little bit of time. Okay. So official Minecraft server is closed source. PaperMC is open source, like what we said. The two type of servers, they are different in that sense in general. You can install either or. So the first part here is going to be the official one. Okay. And if you want to use the open source one, you can go to the second option, option B, and you would start with the second step. Okay. So, all right. So we'll start with the closed source one first, which is the official Minecraft server. What you will do is you are going to create a directory. Anytime that you run any kind of server, especially like for game, if you incorporate the tools and everything you need, you wanted to put it into a working directory, a folder. And using that folder, we can bring in different type of packages, and we would use those packages in order to launch our server. And so now some instructions online will have you download the default Java development kit, which is the 11 for Raspberry Pi. However, all the new Minecraft server versions or releases, they can only be compiled on Java JDK 16 and up. So we want to make sure that we keep in mind of that. And if you're not sure, you can go and look for the information from the releases of the Minecraft servers. So first, we're going to make a folder, okay? And when I issue this, it's likely going to give me the fatal error because I already created it, okay? So it's already there. So what I have is I have created a folder under the home and Pi directory, and then I call it Minecraft server. And inside here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a few things. First, I'm going to bring in the Java development kit, JDK 16. If you have taken Java classes before, you probably know that JDK is required, right, for any kind of Java program to be compiled. With the JDK, what you're getting is you are also bringing in the virtual machine that will be used to be able to output your program once it's compiled. So what happens is we need to really install the Java development kit. Now, if you, like I said, if you install the default version for Raspberry Pi, it's going to give you the version 11, JDK 11. I think they're at 17 now. So JDK quickly changes over time. So every semester that I teach Java, I usually have to update the version. On the Windows environment, you have to set up environment variable path. And you can also do that in Linux using the terminal. So that's what we're going to be doing. And then we're going to download the Minecraft server. So after we create the directory, what we're going to do is we are going to move into that folder. We're going to access it. And you are going to do that by using the cd command for changing directory. So in that, what you're going to do is you are going to change to its directory. So now it's like we are clicking into the folder, then we are going to place the tools that we need there. So once we have the folder set up and we're inside the folder, we are going to put JDK 16. And so Java Development Kit can be pulled by pulling it from the repository. Now, to install the JDK on the Raspberry Pi, we can simply use wget and then put in the link. So what you want is you want to obtain the binaries for the JDK, and then you can specify the certain release. So anything that's 16 and above is going to be fine, but particularly JDK 16 will work. And for our Raspberry Pi, you want to use the ARM Linux release. Okay, so if you actually visit the GitHub, you will find that they have different releases for different Linux versions. So you want to obtain that. And now that's going to come down as a zip file or a compressed file. So this is, you know, when you download it for Windows, you would then have to go through and get the MSI package after you decompress it and then run it and so on. But for the Linux, you are going to use the tar.gz, which is zip, and then you are going to tar it to unzip it. Okay. So once you have this downloaded, okay, if you do look in your folder, I'm going to show you. It's going to come down like this. Okay. It's going to say open JDK 16, JDK error ARM Linux. And so once you have that, then you are going to unzip it. So I'm just going to download it again so you can see. Okay. So this takes about a minute to get all the things downloaded. And as you can see, I issue it again. So now I have two. But you only have to do it once. You only need to get it downloaded, and then you are going to decompress it by using tar command. Okay. Depending on your connection as well, but in general, it might take about a minute or two to get everything downloaded. And this is a way that you can bring in Java or JDK into your Raspberry Pi. So if you want to write more Java programs, you first would need to do this, and then you would need to install. And you should always use working directory anyway when you write your programs, so that way you can organize like your files. And if you're writing your packages in Java, you can use the hierarchical of the folder to do that. Okay. So after we download it, we would then use the tar command to decompress it. And if it works, right, it's not, if it doesn't throw error, it's just going to return your terminal to you at the end. So once it's decompressed, you would have something like this, okay? And inside it, you would see that it would have, a way for you to navigate and get help with the manual. And then under the lib is where all your libraries and all the components of the JDK itself. Okay. So after we decompress it, now we can move on and we will get your Minecraft. But this allows you to set up the path for that particular directory. So what you can do is you can use this command. Okay. And then you put that in here. Now, ideally, when you're using JDK, you want to set up your environment variable path, and what that will do is it's going to tie that particular development kit to a specific area of your system. Um, if you set it up with the home path, everything under the home would then be executed. If it's Java, then you can use that JDK to build. And in a lot of operating system, in all operating system, you need to really basically set up a path and link it so that way when you run the code, it's gonna know that that's the JDK that you use. And in some cases, if you install multiple Java development kit, what will happen is you have to go back and set the latest version to your system, right? Otherwise, it's going to default to, an earlier version, usually JDK 11, which was used for a long time. I used 11 for a long time, but now you can use, higher than 16. With that, you have additional features and things that are added to the development kit. So, and as you know, Minecraft is written in Java, so we have to use JDK. All right. Okay, so after we had export the path, you can simply check your Java version by doing Java dash version. On the Windows side, you would just do Java dash dash version, and then it's going to tell you which one you have installed. And that's important because if you don't have the right version installed, it's going to tell you um, that it's not going to be able to build the server, the Minecraft server for you. So here it tells you that the environment that we have for the runtime is 16.0.1, and that's all we need for our Minecraft server. Okay. And so I do have multiple that's already incorporated in that folder, as you can see, because I downloaded it twice and opened it twice. Okay. Sorry. So once again, we are gonna move forward. And let me see, what's this? All right. So once you have that, then you on your Raspberry Pi, you can go in and you can click on this link. Okay. And if you use VNC, you can use your computer to do this. So if you click on this link, it's going to take you to the Minecraft server download page. Okay, I took a screenshot of that. And then you would find the latest version. Okay, so here it is. Now, if you don't know, you can look through the article for tutorial. This is the jar, and that's the file that you would need in order for it to run. And then also they give you a command on how you can run it. And on this one, you notice that when you see the 1024 here, that's your RAM size. Okay. So that's the amount of RAM that you can dedicate to that particular server. So like I said, if you have a Raspberry Pi that's 8 gig, you can increase this to 2000 or 4000, where you would give it more RAM, and the more RAM you have, the performance is going to be better. So right now we are going to be using minimal. I tried on the Raspberry Pi that they give you. I tried putting 2 gigs, and it wouldn't take it, because the Raspberry Pi that the school gives you is, I think it only has like 2 gigs or 4 gigs. So it's not going to be adequate to run the operating system and 2 gig of RAM dedicated to that server. So once you're on this page, what you're going to do is it's going to tell you that you will find the latest version. Okay. You are going to right click that link for the jar file. You're going to copy the address, and then you are going to put in that link after the wget command. Okay. That's how you're going to be able to download the actual file. Can you click it and download? Sure, but if you wanted to do in terminal, it would be better if you just copy the link and then issue the wget. Okay. So that means that we're going to download it. So coming back to my page here, if you right click and then you copy the link address, okay, and then in your terminal, you're still in that directory, you would do a wget space, and then you right click and you click paste. Okay. And if you copy the highlighted area, I actually put in the proper link for you. But in the future, let's say 5 months from now or a year from now, and you decided to do this, you would go to the download page, you would right click that jar file link, right click to copy the link, and then you would do a wget to download it. Okay. Okay, so this will take about a minute or two to get it downloaded. And as you can see, I already have one that I tested. And then on the server jar .1 here on the right is the second one I just downloaded. Okay, so it's finished. Okay, so you now have the server package that you need for Minecraft. Then next, what we're gonna do is we are gonna look to see if it's there. And the way that you would look inside a folder in Linux in a working directory is using ls. You can simply use ls. It's equivalent to Windows command prompt dir, but here there are additional options for you to see, like how you view in your folder if you wanted to list specific information or look at the details of the file. So if we're looking inside our directory, which is Minecraft server, right? It will tell us, this actually gives you the detail on the permissions, okay, of the server, the time that it was open or last saved, okay, and so on. So in the folder, it tells you the permission of your files, when it was saved or used, and so on. So here it highlights that there is your server.jar. That's what you need. Okay. So the way that we use the option LH, it gives you more details in the type of files that you have in that particular folder or directory. Okay. Which is what it's like looking in here, but you can also see the properties of the file. Okay. Any question? All right, so let me move this up a little bit on the left. Then after you have your file, let's try to run it. You are going to get an error, which is going to be the EULA, the end user license agreement error. That's okay. We can update the license and then we would run it again. So when you run it the first time, you are going to get the EULA error, okay? And what I did was I copy the output, so you might get something like this. And then after that, all you have to do is open up the text file for EULA, and then you're going to update that text file using Nano just to accept the license agreement, and then it's going to run fine. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and issue this. So let me see if it's going to do it. So on mine, since I already updated that, it's going to take a little bit and it's going to go in, it's going to build things, it's going to open the world, and it's going to go. Okay. On yours, when you run it, when you issue the command, right, like what you've seen on the website, you are going to get the user license agreement error. Okay, so if you're curious, mine is working already because I updated that. Okay, so it's going to set up like player and all of that. So once you run that, you get the error. Then to accept the error, you're going to do nano EULA.text. The error I got was bash command not found. Okay, so that could possibly mean that either your JDK did. So you can open up your folder and see if your JDK is there, or look back in your terminal to see if your JDK is set up. Either that, or the version that you got was something had happened with your server.jar file. Okay. I think it has something to do with your JDK, Alex. So, okay, so you have the right JDK. And then make sure that this is, I also have the ARM and the jar file. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so the ARM file is from the JDK, and then the .jar file is this file is for your server. Okay, so in your command to run your server, and you have to do the no GUI like that. So copy this exact. It shouldn't give you the bash error. Okay. So I don't know why it's gonna give you the bash error. So what I recommend is, so you have the files there. If it's giving you a bash error, it possibly is, I think it might pulling down the corrupted file. Let's see if you reboot it and then go back to the terminal. Actually do an update first and then reboot it and see if it's gonna take. If not, you can delete that file and re-download. Maybe delete that file and re-download. Check that, okay? So this is what you can do. So if you want to remove that file, all you have to do is just right click and then move it to trash and then confirm it with yes. Go back to your terminal and then, you can download it using the wget and then, and then see if you can build it. Okay. So after we get the error for the license, you're gonna do nano EULA dot text. So I'm gonna copy that and to show the rest of you. Well, Alex put those together. Oh, sorry, my terminal. Let me see if I can open another terminal. Okay. Sorry, my thing is a little different as it's already started putting together my world. So all you have to do is once you get the nano EULA.txt command issued, it's gonna give you the file, and you're gonna move your cursor down by using your arrow key on your keyboard to the variable, and you're gonna clear out the value false, and you're gonna type in true. Okay. Once you do that, you're going to do Control X to exit. It's going to ask you if you want to save. You're going to press Y, yes, and then you're going to press Enter. Okay, so that means that you now accept the license agreement. Then after you have updated the license agreement, you would then issue the command Java. That means that it's going to use the VME from JDK to build your server, just like before, okay? Now, if you have more RAM, you can change this up to 2, right? Or higher, but we are gonna dedicate 1 gig for this. And we're not going to use a GUI because if you use a GUI, what's going to happen is it's going to take a long time to load. But you can put a GUI, you can run it with the GUI, and then you can click it. But it on Raspberry Pi, it's not efficient to do that. Okay. Any question? So with these steps, you learn how to install JDK 16, which we will need to compile Java programs in a current working directory. You also learn how to download your server.jar file for Minecraft. You also learn to use Nano to update your license agreement and then issue Java command to build Java application with dedicated amount of RAM. Okay. And so once you issue this, it's going to take about 5 to 7 minutes or so to build it. At the end, you're going to see the work done here. It's gonna tell you in the warning, like on mine, it says that my server is overloaded. It's running, it's a little slow, right? It tells me that it's 41 ticks behind. This is in milliseconds, that's it's behind, so it's not at real time. That's what it's saying. That's okay because the system that we're using, it doesn't have we didn't give it a lot of RAM, and we're running a lot of different services on it, since the last couple of weeks. So I just want to show you that you can have it working with your Raspberry Pi. Okay. And then during the process, it's going to tell you like it's going to prepare spawn, and then it's going to build different things for your world. And so once you have that going, it's already working. So here it's done and you're good to go. So in order to run that, you would use your IP address. Okay. When you connect to the server, does it automatically add the player ID to the whitelist? Yes. So you can view it right here. If you allow that user, Kevin, then it's gonna whitelist. And so it used JSON, which is a better way to incorporate XML, which is like a list type of file, right, for the web environment. So, and then it's going to cache your user into here, okay? And then you can see the files that it would create once it builds your world. It's going to say these, okay? Server property, user cache, whitelist. And then if you kick the player out and you lock them out, it's going to go into ban players. Okay. And then it also have like, you can ban them by IP address. Okay. I've seen people make money out of, Minecraft server. They also sell like stuff that they make um, through Minecraft, either physical things like shirts and stickers and or they can also, but you gotta tread that water carefully because there are license that's involved with the game itself, and also, how, so going back, you should look at the user license on, if you monetize it using the official server or compared to the PaperMC. Okay. All right. So you see how that's done. That's one way. So here I wrote down the step on how you would be able to play it, right? Let's say that you have siblings and family members and friends that want to play using your Raspberry Pi server. Um, they would need to download the Minecraft Java edition, and it's about $26. So if they already have it, they can play, and they can play with one another, with you, etc. So it's a multiplayer. Okay. So if you search for that, you would see that it's $26.95 here. Okay. And then once they have that installed, then it tells you the step that you would then need to connect to that IP address, which is your Raspberry Pi IP address. And then click on multiplayer, and then don't show the prompt that it's going to say, don't show the screen again. It's going to prompt them and then click proceed. They're going to use direct connection, put in the IP address for the Pi 4, and then join the server. That's how they connect. Okay. If you don't have the Java edition, it's fine. You don't have to show that you. So the picture that I want for this particular exercise, if you want to turn this in for your lab, is just your terminal showing that your server is ready to go with done, right? So what is the server IP to join? It's your Raspberry Pi IP. If you are playing with the people inside your network, inside your home, it's the private IP. And if you want to set it up for public IP, you need to port forward it. Use your public IP to play. Yeah, using the public IP, Albert, your router IP. Okay, but make sure that you configure your router to allow specific ports, because otherwise it might be blocked by the router if the router whitelists certain connection coming in. But you can test it. Okay, so across the world, public IP. Inside the house, inside your home network, private IP, the 192.168.x.x. Okay, all right. I have time, so I'm gonna walk you through how to set up the open source edition of the server. You know, these developer, if there's a closed source, usually there's a parallel open source, so you can also use it. Okay, and then at the end, I can answer the question. So what you're gonna do is you are going to set up another folder called PaperMC server, right? You don't want to use the same directory as the other one. Okay, so that way you can see the actual process. You will also need to download the JDK, your Java package, and then unzip it or decompress it and then check the version. Okay, so the first few steps is very similar. You're gonna see similar steps. It's about the same. It's just the server file is different. Okay. So what I did was in my command prompt or in my command line terminal, okay, I would create a directory called PaperMC server. Okay. And when you look in it, it's going to have similarities in how once it's built. There's some additional stuff with it, like it would have like version history because, you know, open source, they maintain Git on it, they maintain version releases, and then it's also going to have EULA. Okay. And the world that you're going to get on the PaperMC, they're different. Okay. All right. So here, if you start with this, you would make a working directory. You move into it by changing the directory. And then you're going to download JDK. Then you're going to tar it to decompress it, export the path. Okay. And if you want, you can check the version. Okay. So with also with the latest version, it usually use the later version of JDK. So like I said, a month, a year from now, later on, when you try to do this again, make sure that you check which JDK is going to be used to be able to compile your server. Okay, because it needs to run the Java program. Okay. Then after you have downloaded and decompressed your JDK 16, just like what we've done before, you're going to visit the website that gives you the download, okay, for the PaperMC. So they also have tracks of they track the changes, okay? So you can pick So if I just went with the latest build, which is this one, and JDK16 works fine with it, okay? You can also look into some of the earlier one, but there might be some bugs that they resolved in the later version, okay? So you can do the paper or you can go to the waterfall and you can try to download the waterfall ones. Okay, that's up to you. So I just use the paper 1.17.1 and then I right click this. I copy the link address. I go to my terminal. I use wget command. Okay. And I pull it. Okay. And keep in mind that this is for the 137 release on the PaperMC. Okay. So if you get you have the link, you can just download it. So once we have downloaded, it would have also a server jar file, this one. Okay. And then once we have that file, we would then need to use that file with the Java command, right, to open it. So can you have the PaperMC and the official one running? Sure. I did it last night when I fully retested it. It would be fine. But ideally in practice, right, in for practical reasons, you would use one or the other. But if you want to practice to see if you can have both, sure, you can do that. It's just gonna require, it's gonna utilize more resource from your Raspberry Pi. Okay, so once you downloaded the .jar file, you would then verify that it's there. Okay. And then, as you can see, oh, sorry, I didn't move into the directory like I said I would. Okay. So I would check to make sure that I have the server.jar. And then after I verify that I have it, then I'm going to run the Java command and I'm going to give it a gig and I'm going to use that to build the server. Okay. And just like the other one, you got to update your end user license agreement. Otherwise, it's going to give you that error similar to the first option A that you see. So you're going to nano into it and then you're going to edit, make the variable value true, save it, and then you would have that. Then you would rerun it again. Okay, so go back to step 9 and then run the command again. Okay. And it does take a little bit to go, just like the other one. It's about, I don't know, 5, 7 minutes. And the way that you join it is the same way that you would join the other one. You would then need to um, use your private IP if you're playing with people inside your network. If you play with people outside of your network, you would need to use your public IP and make sure that you configure your router to allow them to connect to it. But keep in mind that, once you open that, you gotta make sure that you control and manage it. So for the exercise itself, if you wanted to turn it in, as long as your server is done and ready, you can just take a picture of that and you can have it ready. Again, just like the other one, you need to use the Minecraft Java edition to play, and it does allow multiplayer. Okay. So if you have difficulty putting in the official one, you can do the option B, which is the same. The procedure is just pretty close to that. The only difference is you using a different download. Okay. And PaperMC is an open source. And then you can check out like, other and see if you can run other servers and such. It's good if you have like younger audience, younger player that they like Minecraft and they already have Minecraft Java edition, maybe they can play it. So you can host it from your Raspberry Pi. Okay, so now you know how to do that. It doesn't take very long. It's about 10, 11 steps. So I have that set up. So once you build it, you're gonna see like your server information. It also would contain like the permissions and user information. So it's a little bit different than the other one, but any questions? Okay. So when I started this class, I intended for it to go a different way. Like we would do more physical connection and build a lot of stuff that's also with Raspberry Pi that's going to be connected more on like the IoT physical appliance. But because there were discrepancy in what was given to you and what I requested, um, the stuff that I had prepared previously didn't really work. As I saw that in the second class, there were missing components to the kit that I requested. So, and that created a lot of issues for the students that has to complete the exercise without having the proper equipment, and it's not fair. So what I did was I replanned everything and I rewrote all the exercises and retest the exercise, which took me quite a bit. And I was successful for most part and failed for one. And it was a good lesson learned for me. And, it helps me understand a little bit better on how to troubleshoot that type of issue. So you know while this is not full blown IoT, but it still is a service that you can offer, you can use, you can make it open to the community, or it's still a web-based type of um, service that you can incorporate with your embedded system. Okay, so at least the takeaway from it is that you are open to a lot of different type of um, resources and services that you can incorporate with something like Raspberry Pi. There are endless things, and you can be creative. This is just a beginning, right? You can think about how you can build out your Raspberry Pi to do different things. But again, if you're not using just software, you have to use hardware, and you have to be able to program it and control it and manage it and secure it. Okay. So with that, um, is there any comment or any questions, any concern? I haven't had time to really release the batch for the second class, but I will work on that along with this class batch and the batch for the certificate for those of you who finish all three classes. If you finish the individual course, you would get a batch. Um, and it will come from a credible. You will need to click the link to verify, and then you can print out your certificate or download the PDF if you want to use that for, resume or work purposes. Um, you will also have a digital badge that you can tie that to your LinkedIn or professional social media profile. Um, and I use a credible. I think the school has acquired another product, and I tried to test it with Canvas, and it didn't. I don't have the privilege to actually tie the key to the API. So right now I can't fully get it working, but eventually I will use Batcher Pro, which is what they had acquired. Okay. So if you want to take some of the courses that you didn't get a chance to take, like the Arduino or the second Raspberry Pi, likely that I will run this set again, a better improved version of the non-credit next summer or maybe winter. I like to teach some of these non-credit courses that I created. The only challenge is that there's some stipulation with how on the internal side with hours and my teaching assignment. So on the regular semester, I'm required to teach 5 credit courses, and I cannot use non-credit courses in place of one. So that's why we normally offer it in the intersession. And we have others. We have operating system ones where you can get a little deeper into Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. I haven't, taught those yet, but they are available to teach. And then we also have other ones that RCC created that we also offer. Okay. All right. So that's it for me for today. I'll stay on for questions relating to this class, or if you have other questions outside of this, that's fine. I'm going to be available for the next hour or so. Let me stop recording in case you have questions.